Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Clark. And to my left today is former Walsh Director of Athletics, Dr. Rafael. And Rafael, thanks for coming by today. Great to have you on campus again.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me and what I consider to be the new campus.
Now, you became the AD back in the late 70s. Talk about what brought you to Walsh in those late 70s and your role before Walsh and your role as AD.
Well, I knew the brothers back in 1953 when I was a boarder at Mount Assumption in Plattsburgh, New York. And through college, I still kept in touch with the brothers. I was working at Ohio State University. And I wanted to return to sports, and I wanted to return to a small college community where the students knew the names of the professors. The position of athletic director, assistant dean of students, and basketball coach opened up, and I applied for it, and I got the job. So I went from Columbus, Ohio State, here to Walsh, at that time, Walsh College.
You were hired by Brother Francis Bluen.
Brother Francis Bluen was
with Richard Jusome at the same time.
Excuse me?
With Richard Jusome at the same time.
Richard Jusome was the dean of students at the time. Because I knew Richard from, again, back. I knew the brothers and Richard and Brother Francis also, back in the early days.
And athletics at that point in Walsh just beginning to bloom and catch on a little bit. It had been around about 15, 16 years. When you became AD, women's athletics became a part of it with basketball and volleyball with Missy Long, and began to bloom in those early years when you were the athletic director.
Exactly. Well, let me mention that Walsh has always had an outstanding, excellent academic value, for the students and beyond. But, athletics also is like the booster to a good engine. And what happened was that with Title IX beginning, and it wasn't only Title IX, we were discussing, when I came on board, we were discussing about what to enhance the women's program. So when Title IX came in, that gave us even an extra incentive to go on. And what we did was with volleyball and also with, women's basketball, we wanted those two programs to take it to the next level. And with Missy Long, we sat down and we said, now we have to expand the program. We have to look for a variety of skills in both programs. But we also wanted softball. And we decided that it was time for softball, and we started the softball program with Mike Frank became the softball coach. And it was very popular because a lot of the young ladies that play softball in high school, they didn't have the opportunity here. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly we had a softball team. And Mike did a wonderful job of the enthusiasm and getting the program started. And on campus, which was at that time about 1,000 students, the young ladies with female students, became more enthusiastic about what was happening at Walsh with women's sports.
And that was a great time, I think, of the true athletes and student athletes, because back in those days, which you really can't do now, you could play basketball and softball and volleyball. As one of my favorite stories, I came in '82, and Colleen Crosby was one of our early female athletes. She earned 12 letters, 4 in basketball, 4 in volleyball, 4 in softball, and carried a 4-point. That will probably never happen again. No. In athletics anywhere in the country. Those were the true days where you really became part of everything on a small campus like this.
Well, that's the advantage of one of the advantages that when we went out to recruit, that we mentioned that Walsh College was not only an excellent education, but also that you can participate. Not only participate as part of the campus life, but also to participate in the ability to play a variety of sports and without being penalized in your educational goals. And that was very important because, and this was both for the men and women's program, and that will be that if you told a coach, I have a big exam tomorrow, I have a laboratory program to have to complete. As long as the student was serious about his studies, and they came here serious about the studies, mm-hmm. and also they were doing well in sports. And by doing well, I don't mean that they were starters, but that when it came to the practice, may they be volleyball, basketball, softball, baseball, whatever it may be, that they would be able to go and attend to academic business before sports. But yet, sports are very important, but everything has its value. When we said student athlete, we said student came first, athlete came second, although a very close second.
Now, you were here when that began to bloom, and you were also here, the arrival of Bob Huggins in 1980, his first athletic director. What are your early impressions or recollections of Bob as a young coach on this campus?
Well, Bob, when I went around speaking to the basketball coach, Ohio State, after we interviewed Bob, and I went calling places in West Virginia to inquire about Bob, not only as a basketball or prospective basketball coach, because this will be his first head coaching position, but also his relationship with students and how he would carry what we say will be the value of Walsh, College. And all the places I called, but mostly Ohio State and West Virginia, where they knew him very, really well, they said two things. Well, actually more than two, but the major two things was, no one is going to outwork Bob. He was an extremely hard worker. And then the other part was that when Bob made a commitment to an organization, that it was a total commitment to sports, to the well-being of the students, to the athletes, and so on. And also, very important, to make sure that the students were doing well in their schoolwork. And needless to say that, he won us over. He was serious, goal-oriented. Yeah, he knew what needed to be done, how to do it. And he was going to bring our basketball program to the next level. He was going to bring it to, it would not just be competitive. Bob said, I'm coming here not just to be competitive. We're going to, we're going to go out and win. And when he was being interviewed by the news media, and he said, we're going, I must have cringed because he set goals for immediacy. It wasn't like down the road in the future. It was now we're going to do this, we're going to set the sights, at a high level, and we're going to compete at that level. And he did.
How'd you handle the 18 technical fouls he received his first year as head coach? Was those some of the nightmare days, maybe?
Well, his father was an outstanding, and most probably the dean of high school basketball here in Ohio. And I met his brother, who also played Ohio State. And when Bob stayed over at my house for a few months while he was selling the house in Columbus. So we got to know each other very well. And he was a serious, and at that time, and he's still very competitive today, but at that time, he felt that everything needed to be done to protect his players. There was a certain amount of accountability that needed to be dealt with the thought of we're going toward the future. And on top of that, he wanted the players to know he had their back. I'm not just the coach here. I'm coming from Ohio State to a small college, and I'm just going to step over and that's it. His idea was the players are going to work hard. I'm going to work hard for them. Not only that, but something that people don't realize, they know. When Bob was here, and I was the athletic director, he would check every other week in writing and also by speaking with all the professors to make sure that the students were doing well, were doing their work, and they were showing to class. On top of that, if they were not doing well to his satisfaction, he would bring them to his house or upstairs, and they will do their work to his satisfaction and the satisfaction of the assistant coaches before they were, shall we say, in good graces. So education, this is very important. Education was very important to Bob. Now, the technical fouls, he wanted to make sure that just because he was the rookie here, just because he was a new kid on the block, he wanted to make sure that his players were protected. And he was less than diplomatic than he should have been. But after some discussion of that and maybe some more experience in coaching, he realized there are many different ways that you can deal with things.
I really think that's one of the reasons why guys always give him every ounce of what they have, is they know, as you say, he always had their back.
And most important of all, and this is something that when he was here, I noticed that, and as a matter of fact, Bob and I are still good friends today. I didn't like what happened against Kentucky, but I haven't written to him yet. He wrote to me before the Final Four, but I'm going to write to him when I return so I can let him know what's happening here. But one of the things about, what Bob was, that the players knew he really, truly cared for them beyond the gym.
He always has.
And he always has. So they knew, and they still see him as, I won't say a father figure because that's overused, but as a friend, as a mentor, as someone who helped them to guide them and prepare them not only for basketball but for life. Because most students, athletes, are not going to go to the NBA. But he will prepare, and they all say that, not only when they're here at Walsh, but later on in West Virginia, and also when he was in Cincinnati for many years, they all keep saying the same thing. One of the things we learned from Coach Huggins was he prepares to enjoy the game, work hard, and if we didn't work hard, he will let us know about it, but also he helped us to get ready for life.
And we're starting to bloom here with women's athletics. You have Bob Huggins, things are taking off. What made you leave Walsh, then Walsh College, to pursue other endeavors?
Well, let me mention first that it wasn't just Bob, at that time. One of the things that Bob did when he was here was that when I got here, a lot of the coaches were happy to be competitive. And in order for us to grow as a college at that time, and let's face it, we can have, if people misunderstand, I'm an educator. Mm-hmm. Education comes first. But like Coach said before, you can have the greatest engineering student here. Who knows that, down the road, except the parents and so on, and graduation, when they say, what a great student he is. And that's unfortunate, by the way. But every week, so many times a week, the newspaper, the news media is talking about sports, Walsh College, Walsh University. People get to know us by what we are, by what they say. And at that time, when I came here, I was happy with the academic. I was happy with the coaches because they were very much interested in the university, in the college, in the students, but it was like a student who's happy with a C average. Hey, I'm passing, But to bring it to the next level, we needed to go after more students, better players, but also let the world know that we're alive. That Walsh College was not Walsh Jesford High School,
Yes.
Down the road.
Exactly.
When Bob arrived here, what he did was that the message that I was hoping to, and I was putting out the year before, what happened was that Bob came in and he lived that message. And like everything else, it was like a storm that the other coaches started to say, hey, and he would tell the other coaches, hey, we can do this. And by the way, I went recruiting and I saw this kid who played golf, or this swimmer, or this softball, baseball player. That's great. Get in touch with him. I talk about Walsh. So he was also very good at making a united front with the other coaches. There was no jealousy. There was no, basketball. No, everybody was, working together. And Bob was very good at setting up that ability to unite the coaches, and also for them to say, yes, we can go to the next level. And needless to say that he did bring, and all the other programs went to the next level. In soccer, baseball, the team meet. He was a pitcher in those days, and he played soccer. A very good player, and they saw that enthusiasm going on, and on campus was a great amount of enthusiasm for the growth of the athletic program, men and women, and also one of the things that Bob did, which he has done everywhere he has gone. He will go to the dorm and try to have the students in the dorm to adopt a player, and they will show up to the game, and then they will cheer for the adopted player, and that created a lot of enthusiasm. So Bob, as far as I'm concerned, he did a lot for the college in the sense of athletics, but he also understood the importance of the individual and also education. For me, every coach that was here, I was happy to say, felt that education was the most important part. But they wanted to give the students a good experience in athletics. So that made my job easier. The only thing I had to do was to say, well, come on, you can do a little bit more, you can do a little bit more. And because once you get excited about it, and the professors here were very much enthusiastic about sports, which sometimes in some colleges, universities, they are not too crazy about sports because they feel they have too much credit, too much money, too much. The professors here at Walsh at that time really were excited about sports, because as you become more successful in sports and the word spread, Walsh College, more students want to come over. Yeah. And they were enthusiastic about that. And not only that, but they noticed that the coaches, including Bob, because sometimes they were concerned he's coming from Ohio State, a big university. they realized, they insisted that education came first. So that was not a threat. As a matter of fact, it was a partnership with the professors here on campus. Now, why did I leave? Well, it was tough. It was hard to leave Walsh at that time because it was like you plant a seed and you start to see the growth of flower.
Exactly.
You sort of say, I want to see, that tree grow. I want to be part of it. I want to get the enjoyment of the fresh air and the flowers. If you're a gardener, you don't leave the garden after you plant it all that. So it was hard for me to leave. However, and also the brothers that I'd known since I was, 50 in 1953. And Brother Francis, he's, and I told him this a few years ago, and my father said that I made a great choice. Brother Francis is like my second father. Not father like he is like my second father. As a matter of fact, I became an educator because of Brother Francis. He never said to me, become a teacher, but the way he taught, the way he spoke, the way he took, the students, and I said, that's what I want for myself. And since that time, he has counseled me and my wife for a lot. He's been my role model and everything. But so it was hard to leave. But friends, relatives, back east, especially my parents, I wanted also to return to full-time teaching. And I had the opportunity to return, and I got a job at the University of Connecticut. And I stayed there 12 years, and they offered me financially, I was able to do well financially there. But also I was able to do what I really enjoy, and that was being directly involved with students. And I was able to also do staff development, which is what I started to do, and work with the workshops and seminars and all that, with depending on different needs and issues that I really enjoyed. And I stayed there for 12 and a half years, and so I left here with a heavy heart. But personally, not as much professionally, because I really enjoyed what I was doing here. But I was thinking of the future and where, and also to be, family, back here, back with family. It's the main reason why I left. And once I left, I was in touch all the time. I was driving Richard Zoom crazy because I would call him and I said, hey, how did the basketball team do? How did this team do? At that time we didn't have the football program, which we did look at that time to football, but financially at that time it was impossible. It had taken too much away from everything, and when we were starting to grow, and at that time wasn't the right time. The right time came when it did happen. But so I was calling Rich at the time in the newspaper, I only got a score, wow, So I was driving him, and when they went to the national tournament, the basketball national tournament, I almost was able to go, and then unfortunately I had an important seminar to run. So I was dying. So I called him and how did the team do today before the newspaper came out? I wanted to know. So even today, after all these years, I'm always, the first thing I look for is for Walsh, Walsh University, how their football team did, and all that, So I'm still very much attached.
And did you ever coach again or get back to athletics in any way?
I did. When I arrived in Connecticut, especially even at the location, because we came from New Hampshire to Columbus, Ohio State, and here. So, although we have family in Connecticut, but no one knew me, really. All the coaching I had done in New Hampshire and other places. So I said, I'm not going to coach again. I'm too busy, Then my daughter one day saw me on the edge of the newspaper and drawing plays, basketball plays, and I remember my daughter saying to me, hey, Mom, Daddy's going back to coaching. And my wife Susan, said, what's happening? She said, oh, yes. She saw it. And then I returned to coaching high school basketball. And again, people ask me, how was it about coaching college or coaching? And I said, it's all different. The intensity that you want to win, you want to help your students, you prepare, the enjoyment, you hurt when, especially for the students when you lose. And what I did was I went to coach at the smallest public high school in the state of Connecticut. And every school was way bigger than we were. But it was great. The students were wonderful, and I did the same thing that we did here. and I copied what the coaches were doing here and what we did together. I wanted in writing from every teacher how my students were doing, if they were behaving, so on. And I have to say that I saw with the teachers at the high school with me what I saw the professors here were the coaches. And that was that we realized education was first. And although athletics was extremely important, but yet education was first. So when we said student athlete, we really meant student. Athlete was to have fun, to enjoy yourself, to be competitive, and also to take certain values into your life. So in high school, I did the same thing, and although I coached in the smallest public high school, I coached for about 10 years. We had a great time. We had some success. Sometimes wasn't so successful. But the students stay with me, and right now, a lot of them are good friends of mine, and we still talk and we still remember things that happened, 30 years ago.
Of it.
And I really, and that's the part that I wanted to return to be extremely directly involved rather than indirectly. Here, it was indirectly. I wanted to return directly. And so I wanted to return to my first love, and that was working directly with students.
And when you were here at Walsh College, we had 7 buildings. You come back now, and the wow factor hits. What an extremely, and it's just exploded, a different campus and a beautiful campus now.
Well, let me mention that I know I read about it. I was told about it. And the computers, I can take the quarterly report. I mean, I see the pictures. But not until I arrived here that suddenly it was, whoa. I mean, this is a campus. The campus before was wonderful, it was united, it was family. But what I have seen so far is that now you have the facilities for the students, excuse me, for the students to have the full value, the full enjoyment, the full taking the opportunity for growth is here. So the educational with the facilities and the athletics, now you have the whole package. And what I notice is, although it has grown, and now the facilities, and now I have to ask questions to get around the campus, I notice the students, they're still the same. They're still very enthusiastic. I talk with them, I ask direction, they're very polite, they're going to class, I see them in the different rooms, and I'm saying that's still what's about. The enjoyment and taking the opportunities is available to you to be the student that you want to be for your future. So when I came here, I am not surprised, because I remember Richard at that time saying, this campus has great opportunities, and I can vision, we're going to have this. And even at that time, he had a certain vision, and with Richard, who was my boss at the time, I knew him before that, it's never the case of, we cannot do this. So, why try? It's, there's a vision here, and there's a good reason for it. Well, it can be done. Now the question is, how do we do it? So you got to put your energy on how to do it, rather than to use your energy to say, no, it cannot be done. So when I was working for Richard, I would go to his office. Rich, I think there's a problem here that we need to deal with. And he said, what's the problem? And I would tell him. And I didn't know, I tell him the problem. What problem with dealing with either with finance, or we need another coach, or we need whatever, equipment. Athletic directors are always, equipment, we need this, we need. And his answer was, okay, what's your solution? How are we going to do this? So if you went to Richard with a problem, you better have another step, because his idea is, if you see a problem, then you must have a solution on your mind, right? The needs, and how you're going to get there. And then finally, the question was, how can we do it together? And then he will speak with Francis, and then he will go back to me, and he will say, okay, So the point is that, it's beautiful. This is what it's about, and excellent, overwhelmed, if I can use that word, that overwhelmed when I saw it, across the street, the parks, and Timmy one time said to me, I envision one day we're going to have the, baseball field with the dugouts, and one day going to be lights and people, so this is not a surprise to me, but what surprised to me that dream is coming, it has become almost completely true, because there's some ideas that still up in the air. But I'm not surprised because I heard people talking about that vision of Walsh College, and eventually become a university and again, with academic growth. It wasn't just the buildings. I mean, building's just a building. I mean, it's what you do with it. So the academic growth with athletics, having the facilities and making this campus something that students want to participate, want to be in. So I'm not surprised because that vision was there. And I'm not surprised because with Richard, with Francis, did a wonderful job of solidifying the college. Richard has taken it to the next level, even beyond, because of the vision he had and because of the positive attitude and positive force of saying, we can do it. The question is, how are we going to do it? Rather than, don't aim for the sky. Well, he wasn't aiming for the sky. He just wanted to aim for a big, tall building. And then when you get to the tall building, let's aim for the sky. We're closer to the sky. So I'm not surprised, but it's overwhelming. You have to come here to see it and believe it and enjoy it. And also to see the students going through those buildings to make those buildings alive. And Walsh University now is no different than the Walsh College of the past. The students making the campus alive. And to me, when I live here, I told my daughter that last night, and I told her to my brother, who was here only once, to see the campus. I said, you're not going to believe it. And I told her about it. I said, but you know something? The campus is alive. Not that it wasn't alive before, but now the building is making it grow in a sense of radiation. Before we were warm, now we're hot.
Where are you living now?
In Connecticut. I live in Connecticut. I'm still there. Once I left here, but within family and friends and my daughter, just 30 minutes away with my grandchildren. I have another daughter in Montana. I still live there. And once I retired, I took a year and a half off to get my health back in, really strong. And my wife was very happy to see that I returned to working. And it was, I did some consulting work working with new teachers. Well, then that became like a full-time job. And after about 2 years, the stress and all that, I said, no, that's not going on. Then I started to work supervising student teachers. And I really enjoyed that because now I had very good teachers, like I said, with the brothers who mentored me. Mm-hmm. And I was really blessed going to college. I had some professors that really helped me a lot. And I am able to do the same thing. I go and supervise student teachers. They're ready to graduate. I'm able to be a mentor, a coach. I'm able to be inside the classroom, see what's going on. So it gives me the best of all the world and the independence that I'm not working all day, so that when I'm working with my students and going to the schools, I'm putting my full energy, and it really rejuvenates me. And I do think of what made the brothers, when I was going to the Mount, and also the brothers when they were here, why I used to say, those guys never get tired. It's because the students rejuvenate, and like a coach, the same way. You see coaches working, scouting and recruiting and doing all those things, and people, they never get tired. Well, and usually after we retire, they say, what do we miss? We don't miss the victories and all that. What we miss is, the students, the players, that being in the gym, being together, going through the experience together, and then after they graduate, I had dinner 2 nights ago with the tennis coach. Sherry Bozart. I had dinner with her, and what did we talk about? It wasn't how many championships he won. It was about, hey, this guy, remember this guy? He graduated that year. He still calls me all the time. That is what it's about. And in a place like Walsh College, where we were a unit, where we were a family, then just because they graduate, this is still part of the family, no matter how old they are. And that's what this Walsh College and now Walsh University is about. And more buildings would enhance, but it doesn't change the family structure that the students find here.
Well, thank you so much for giving us these thoughts and spending time. You were an influence in the early years, and it's grown from that time to where it is today. And continued success and best of health. And
Well, thank
whenever
you.
you're in town again, you better come by and see us.
Oh, I hope I didn't talk too much, but
No.
I'm so excited by what I have seen here. And the people and the professors and the coaches, and I go to the baseball game yesterday and hearing the people cheering and students also, there. And just walking around campus and seeing the students and their faces, it's just, this is the place to be.
This is former Walsh AD, Dr. Rafael. I'm Jim Clark.
Thank you for the invitation.